Have you ever received feedback that stung? Feedback that felt more like an attack than a helping hand? As church leaders and volunteers, how we give and receive feedback really shapes our team culture and ultimately impacts the mission. In today's episode, we're in part 3 of this topic, and we'll be diving into the difference between criticism and critique. One tears down, the other builds up. If you want to create a culture where feedback fuels your growth rather than discouragement, today's discussion is really going to help you. Let's talk about it. Welcome to the Small Town Big Church Leadership Podcast, a place where pastors, church leaders, and volunteers can grow themselves and the local church. We're pastors Brad and Misty Helton, church planters in rural America.
First, let's define the two. Criticism and critique. They may seem very similar, but they serve different purposes, okay? Criticism often focuses on someone's faults, and it feels very personal, even if it wasn't intended to be. It highlights what went wrong, but rarely offers a path forward. It's kind of like that feedback that just stings because it's so negative without anything that's constructive to helping you get better. On the other hand, critique is constructive. It's meant to help us grow. It refines our work, and ultimately we get better, or our team gets better. A critique highlights areas of improvement, but does so with the intention of helping and building someone up, not tearing them down. We discussed this in part 1, but we should all want to embrace and receive constructive feedback or critique. Mm-hmm. You know, the Bible says in Proverbs 15, verse 31 and 32, if you listen to constructive criticism, and that is critique or feedback, then you'll be at home among the wise. And don't we all want to be wise, right? Verse 32 says, but if we reject the discipline or that critique, you only harm yourself. But if you listen to correction, you grow in understanding. Obviously, we should all want to grow. We should all want to get better. We should all want our churches to grow and get better. And embracing critique is really where it begins. And let's just be honest, Brad, as leaders, the way we give and receive feedback, it shapes our team's culture. It really flows from the head down.
Right.
But not all feedback is created equal, obviously. And that, as we just said, critique helps us grow. That's what we're focused on. Where criticism and that attitude really tears others down. And when we don't know the difference, we really risk contributing to a toxic environment rather than a healthy culture that's thriving and one where everyone feels honored and valued.
Yeah, so let's dig a little bit deeper and let's look at the key differences between critique and criticism.
Yes.
Constructive critique, okay? And we're just going to couple those words together because we want to just drill down the importance of recognizing that critique is constructive. It builds up.
Right.
It offers solutions.
Right.
Okay. It points out areas for improvement. It provides a way forward. Remember, the goal with constructive critique is to help make it better, as you said. Whereas, in contrast, destructive criticism, it really only highlights the flaws of the person being criticized without really offering any help.
Right.
Okay.
So, I mean, think about it. Maybe you've done an event at your church and it didn't go over the way you wanted it to.
Right.
It's really easy for someone to just criticize and to just say, that was horrible. Like, we should never do that
just
again.
Pointing out the obvious.
Exactly. Yeah. But healthy critique is actually looking at, okay, what didn't go the way we wanted it to, and what can we do better next time?
Right.
And so you're looking to the solution. You're not just saying, well, that was horrible. Yeah. It's like when a song doesn't go well with the worship team, like maybe a brand new song. Rather than saying, well, that was horrible, how about we actually point out exactly what went wrong so that we can make it better next time.
Let's identify those tiny tweaks that we can make, because you don't just throw it out just because something like a new song maybe doesn't hit right, but maybe if you just take a step back, maybe you realize, okay, it's just going to take a few tiny tweaks,
Right.
and we're going to be on course.
Right, exactly. But the way that we approach that and the attitude behind that is everything, okay? And that's what we're talking about. As leaders, we have to foster that culture so that whether it's us giving the critique or someone giving even us critique, we're teaching everyone how to do it in a healthy way, right? We're looking for solutions to problems, not just criticizing.
Right.
Okay, so let's go again. Critique is selfless. It's about the mission, the bigger picture. It's all about the team and the goals that we set for the team. Where criticism, it's selfish. It ignores the bigger picture and focuses on personal frustrations.
Right. Yeah, that's really good. And think of critique this way as well. It's specific.
Right.
Okay. Which goes along with what you were just saying. It really it identifies what can be improved upon and how. Whereas criticism, a lot of times, because it comes out of selfish ambition or because it just comes out of frustration, it can tend to be vague and really gray, and often comes in the form of just these big, wide, sweeping,
really broad
judgments, broad judgments. And so we have to be careful when we bring constructive critique. Let's get laser focused and identify, just like with the songs.
Yes.
Okay, what is it exactly? And that if I'm going to give constructive critique, that means that I need to really, before I say anything, I need to be very slow to speak.
Yeah.
I need to really think through what am I really trying to say here? What is really going to help this person in their performance or this system or the team, the way we're operating as a team. What is it really? Don't just tell me it sucked. Don't just tell me it was horrible.
Well, one of the things that we've always taught our team is that you don't just bring you don't just bring the problem. You also need to offer a solution. And I feel like that is where healthy critique is. Before you are ever even popping off with it, you are thinking about...
And it may not be the right solution, but at least it's evidence that you're using the brain that God gave you to try to think like an owner.
Exactly. Because, depending on where they are in the organization, you may not know what resources are available, right? And so, you want to always come to, especially if you're a volunteer or you're a team lead or staff going to someone above you, you want to not just bring the problem, because that can just be critical, but bring the problem.
Bring some healthy, realistic, achievable suggestions.
Yes, as to a solution. Okay, critique focuses on the work. It's about the task at hand or the project, but criticism focuses again on the person, which can make you feel like you are being attacked. And when you do that, we talked about this before, that your defenses just really go up. And so we want to make sure that we're focusing on the work.
It's based on us being teachable and us being willing to learn.
Yes.
And if we'll come at it with that attitude.
And even sometimes, of course, the feedback can be directed to us, right? I mean, let's say you are a door greeter. And
if you have a cup of coffee in one hand and your foot holding the door in the other.
Right. That's not very welcoming. But even if you're not smiling.
Right.
Okay. The objective is that every single person who walks through our doors feels like they are being welcomed, like they are at home. They feel like family. They feel like they're valued, all of those things. Imagine if the person holding the doors or the person waving in the parking lot isn't smiling.
Right.
Okay? Your leader might come to you and say, okay, guys, great job today. We got everybody through the doors in a timely fashion, but we need to make sure that while we're doing all of those things, that we're remembering to smile and make those people feel valued. Yeah. You could easily think to yourself, oh, they're just attacking me because I'm not a person who smiles. No, it's not an attack on you as an individual. It's looking at the mission, the bigger picture of why we do what we do, right? And of course, sometimes we need to look at it and say, okay, if this has to be, mentioned more than once, maybe you have that person in the wrong position because maybe they need to be running a camera, rather than at your front doors if they're just not a person who likes to smile all the time.
Yeah, and I'll say, too, if you're that person that you really just struggle with constructive feedback.
Right.
You need to take a few steps back and recognize, is this really the attitude that I should have? Does this reflect who Christ really wants me to be?
And do I want to grow? Because we've talked about it in the other, in episode 1 and 2, and that is, if it's given to you in the proper way, out of love, which is what it should be, okay? We should be giving healthy critique in a manner that is loving. Then everybody understands it's about making us better, right? As individuals, as leaders, and as a church as a whole.
Right.
And so it is human nature to want to get defensive. It is human nature. And so you got to fight against that. You got to just take a step back, be very slow to respond, and honestly just say, God, help me
to get better.
Yeah. Like to take what someone is sharing with me and try to get better.
Yeah. Critique seeks understanding. Okay. It asks questions.
Right. And then listens.
It listens.
Yeah.
Okay. Criticism condemns what it doesn't understand, dismissing ideas without careful thought. And this, and it goes back to what we were just saying. You may not have a full grasp of the situation, and it's a lot easier to just go on a rant and just gripe about how it didn't come together well.
Right.
Or how it, in your mind, how it just completely bombed, it failed.
Right.
It goes back to understanding, okay, let me just comprehend what happened here. Let me identify the details.
Right.
And let's talk this through. Let's hash these things out.
Well, and if someone brings critique, okay, what we're saying is that critique is going to, if you don't fully understand, and a lot of times you do this, Brad, you're really good at doing this. Before you pop off with something in response, you ask questions. And a lot of times even posing what they said as a question back to them.
Yeah.
So what you're telling me is you state it, and then they either say yes, and then you know fully, okay, this is exactly what they're talking about, and you can respond properly, or they go, no, that's not what I was saying at all. And it's like, okay, well, can you explain it to me a different way? Because I don't think I'm understanding.
Right.
But criticism just literally shuts that down. Like somebody says something and in your mind, you just don't agree because your defenses go up. And whether it's your team or you personally and your leadership, whatever it is, you just immediately are like, no, that couldn't possibly be. It's like a parent when they get the call from the teacher and they're like, oh, not my Johnny. No way did my kid do that. When the teacher on the other end is like, yeah. Maybe you should question and ask some questions first before just shutting it down, okay?
Yeah, that's a good example.
All right. Critique is delivered kindly. We were just talking about that a minute ago.
So important.
It's delivered kindly and objectively, okay? It's spoken in a way that literally builds people up. Where criticism, on the other hand, is often spoken with sarcasm or harshness, which discourages rather than builds someone up. Yeah. I mean, listen, nobody wants to be critiqued, okay? But at the end of the day, if we are healthy and we want to grow, then we are willing to take the critique, all right? At the end of anyone, whether it's me critiquing you or you critiquing me, that person should feel good about the fact that you are willing to have the conversation and they feel like, I can do this, built up. You can always get better. None of us in any area of our life have arrived.
Absolutely.
We always
There's
can get
things
better.
that you and I are working on right now. We've got a list of things that is in our radar as leaders. And in this season of leadership that we're in, as we're continually in seasons of growth, we've never led at this caliber before. And so you and I have a list of things where we're realizing we need to get better at this, and that.
All of us have blind spots.
We have blind spots, all of us.
And we have to recognize that we have blind spots. And when you do, and you're asking someone you love to just share with you how you can get better, my goodness, you're coming at it with such a great attitude.
That
That's
attitude
so
is so good because it's not selfish. It's not inward focused. This attitude says, I want what's best for God's church. For the church of God.
Yep, the team.
Okay, so here's a question. How do we apply this in our leadership? Okay, we've been talking personally. We've been talking about this. So one, I'd say examine your intent before giving feedback.
That's good.
Talked about this. Ask yourself, am I offering solutions or just pointing out someone's flaws?
That's good.
Right? Second thing I'd say is frame your words with grace. All right, think about Ephesians 4:29, which says, let no corrupting talk come out of your mouths, but only such as is good for building up.
Right.
When we were raising our kids, we used to say, guys, we only build up, we don't tear down. We probably said it 1,000,000 times.
Right. The third thing is encourage a culture of growth. When someone on your team offers critique, receive it with humility rather than being defensive.
That's
we
huge.
model it as leaders.
Yeah.
Okay. We set that tone. Number 4, when you receive criticism, filter it. Ask yourself, is there truth to it, even if it stings? If so, learn from it. If it's merely destructive, let it go. Planting a church, sometimes those people don't even know you, and they're on social and they're blasting us and they're blasting you. And you're like, you don't even know me. You don't know our intentions. You don't know what God is doing. And yet you are just honestly being very critical.
You don't know what we've been through. You don't know our story.
Yes.
You don't know the other side.
Exactly.
There's 2 sides to every story.
And so those types of moments, you got to be able to recognize, is it healthy critique?
Right.
Or is it criticism? And if it's that criticism that's unhealthy, let it go.
Well, we hope this has helped you. Thank you so much for joining us today. And hey, listen, if you would do us a favor, we would really appreciate it. If you would rate this podcast or wherever you view this content and share it and just help us get the word out. We just want to thank you so much in advance for doing that. We really appreciate it. We'll see you next time.